The trial of Ali Muhammad Ali Abd-Al-Rahman is ongoing at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. From 5th to 7th June 2023, legal representatives of victims presented views and concerns of their clients before the chamber by presenting 2 participating victims and 1 witness. 2 testified in the courtroom with protective measures, while 1 testified via video link before the 3 judges of Trial Chamber 1, comprised of Presiding Judge Joanna Connor, Judge Rene Alapinyi Gansu, and Judge Althea Violet Alexis Windsor. Mr. Abd al-Rahman, the alleged leader of the Janjaweed militia, is accused of 31 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity allegedly committed in Darfur, Sudan between August 2003 and at least April 2004. These crimes include directing attacks against a civilian population, murders, pillaging, rape, persecution, torture, cruel treatment, and other inhumane acts. The trial started more than a year ago, and so far, 54 witnesses were called by the Office of the Prosecutor, and 2 on the request of the Chamber testified in the courtroom. The defense team of Mr. Al-Rahman also had an opportunity to question the prosecution witnesses. 600 participating victims in this case are represented by their lawyers, the legal representative of victims, Natalie von Wistenhausen, and her team. Ms. von Wistenhausen started her opening statements by giving a brief history of attacks in Darfur and the effect it had on the victims.
Your Honours have determined, based on a preliminary assessment, that 600 of the individuals who have thus far submitted applications to participate as victims in these proceedings have suffered harm as a result of the crimes allegedly committed in and around Courtroom, Brindisi, Mukhtar and Delej. Under the court's jurisprudence, harm may be physical, like the effects of torture or sexual violence, or having to flee one's home. The harm may be psychological, meaning the mental impact of the crime on the direct victim as a result of harm to a close relation, or having witnessed crimes committed against other members of the community, or material harm, of course, like the destruction, loss, or theft of property. It needs to be said that the participating victims we consulted find it difficult to understand and to digest that, given the ICC's legal framework, the prosecutor's discretionary choices, and the pre-trial chamber decision, the participation of victims are limited to the scope of the confirmed charges against the accused. This means that recognition by law determines which voices are heard or represented in the courtroom and which are not. This legal and perhaps also pragmatic selection of charges is nonetheless one that is a narrow view of victimhood and of the victim's realities, and therefore also of the truth of the ongoing sufferings of the much larger community of victims from the Darfur situation.
Anand Shah, Associate Counsel on the team of the Common Legal Representatives of Victims, also took the floor to make submissions about the different cultural practices that the Fur community used to practice before the conflicts in Sudan began. Mr. Shah said that his clients have expressed concern about their diminished Fur cultural practices due to the conflict.
As the majority of Fur people, certainly in the Wadi Salah and Mukhtar localities, are now displaced in their own country and to neighboring countries and in the wider diaspora, much of these traditions and practices have been immeasurably impacted. In a video call with participating victims on 13 March 2023, one victim said to us, "Life now is tough and the opposite of what it was. Before the war, We lived a normal life. We worked in farming. We had cattle. Our children went to school. And we celebrated ceremonies with our neighbors. But now, life has become very difficult. We are refugees and lost all of that. Our traditions have been thrown away. End of quote. Witness P0643, during his testimony before your honors, provided perspective on how the conflict and its aftermath have influenced the younger four generations' perception of this welcoming tradition.
Natalie von Wistenhausen, the common legal representative of victims, read out to the chamber the views and concerns of victims, with most of them asking the chamber for justice to be done for the atrocities that took place during the 2003-2005 charged period in this case. She further played audio excerpts of several victims.
Next, Your Honours, we'll hear from a participating victim who I will refer to as Abdul. Abdul addresses you from an IDP camp in Darfur. He's an elderly gentleman and was a survivor of the Delege charged incident.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. I am 94 years old. I live in Kalma camp now. And as you can see, since we were forced to leave our homes, we are living in agony like this. We never eat enough and never drink enough water, except what white people bring. They give us a bit, and it's not enough. My message to the judges of the International Criminal Court is to examine what they did to us. They killed our people, forced us to leave, and they took over our land. We ask for justice, to give us some relief. We are suffering now.
Participating victim P0002 testified in open sessions with no protective measures. He testified about the attacks in Bindisi in August 2003.
Suddenly, then I was outside. I went to the like we had a sugarcane plantation. So there was a house close to mosque. My auntie's house. My auntie, she moved and she went to Zalinga, and we used to live. My father used to live in that house. So behind that, we have a backyard, and there was sugarcane plantation, and we used to play around that area. So for me, I went as my neighbor's my grandfather's son. His name is called also Hassan. So we went there inside. We were playing, and suddenly we heard gunshots. We stayed there inside, and after a few minutes, like 15-16 minutes, we came outside. And when we came outside, we found dead bodies. Even my father was there also. For me, that time I was confused. I didn't know even what I can do. And they were Janjaweed with their horses and some Land Cruisers. They were standing there. They didn't say anything to us. They were just staying there, and houses were burning, and many people they ran away. So for us, they told us we have to leave, and we ran away from that place. We went. That time I was separated. It was my siblings and my mother. So we went to bush. We were just kids. We were just following people where they go. We had no even no plans where we can go. We were just following people randomly, and that is it. Yeah, but that time many people died. Many people died, and all the houses were burned in Bindisi. And Bindisi is a very big city. Very big city. Yeah.
The participating victim P002 further testified about the impact of the Bindisi attacks on him.
Seeing your father laying.
Sir, we'll give you a break if that helps, Mr. Hassan. But I think it's probably better from your point of view if you try and continue.
Yeah. As I said, kids, they don't know death. If you bring 10-year-old or 8 years old and show him dead body, they don't know who is this person dead or sick. They don't know. Maybe they can think this person is sick, but they don't know what is dead. But for me, it was a horrible moment for me to see people dying and see something unusual happening to my village. It was horrible. sometimes I feel I'm the one who did these things. It is something I cannot ever imagine that can happen to human beings, but suddenly happened. And it happened to many people like that. And I saw horrible things more than that thing, dead body of my own father. I saw horrible things happen to other people even.
If we talk about physical injuries first, you have mentioned
Yes.
that you have suffered physical injuries and that you have some scars. Can you explain to us where these come from?
For me, I'm happy that I'm still alive. And there's this movie about Walking Dead. For me, I feel like I'm the Walking Dead. I'm dead, but but I'm spiritually, I'm still alive. But for me, I'm dead psychologically, emotionally, mentally. But I still cope. I still struggle. It's difficult, by the way. It's very difficult for a person to experience what I went through, and I don't wish for any human being to feel what I went through in my life. There are many people. There are thousands of people. I believe there are millions of people who have went through what I went in many countries, not only in my country, Sudan.
After the attacks in Bindisi, participating victim P0002, together with others, fled to the bush and he was eventually separated from his family. He was taken to a Janjaweed camp where he was beaten and tortured before he finally escaped. Following his escape, he lived in a camp as a refugee for a while before relocating to another country.
My hope is to stop the war, please. Let us do anything to stop this war. I have much to say, but I feel so much pain, and we need to stop this pain. I believe all of us we are in pain, and I think pain has medication. And medication is you and me and us. Medication is good words, it's loving words, it's unity, and above all, don't forget we are human beings.
Witness P0001 testified with the protective measures of image distortion and pseudonym. Parts of her testimony were conducted in private session, closed for the public to protect her identity. Protective measures are ordered by the judges to ensure safety of the witnesses. Witness P0001 said that she fled from the attacks in Darfur together with her children and other civilians to a refugee camp in Chad, where they were given food, medication, clothing, and shelter. She also said that life in the camp was very difficult because the camp was full of wounded and sick civilians and the medical help was limited. She further talked about the displacement on women and children in the camp and all the difficulties they faced.
نعم النسوان في المخيم.
All right. Women in the camp, they suffer by the violations and all the implications of the war. Women suffer. They lost men, they lost their children, they were subjected to rapes by the Janjaweed. In addition, women in the camps were so exhausted. They were in need of assistance for the pain resulting from the rapes to heal. The pain that still exists in their own bodies. Simply because mass raping has caused pain in their uterus or in their bodies, and that was a great pain to tolerate for women in the camps. Women did not find the aid or relief. Some were beaten and were in need of surgery. They were in need of treatment. As for the aid for women, they are in need of urgent relief because women are still struggling. If a woman has lost a husband, a child, an uncle, a brother. That has resulted in mental illness. We speak with the social affairs and human rights about this, but they are incapable of forgetting the pain. What has happened is unspeakable. These women are outside their homeland and they are in pain. The pain is deep in the heart. That's why women are in need of aid. Hopefully, that could partially even remove the pain in the heart. This could assist because women are suffering a lot.
Explaining the situation of rape victims in the refugee camps, witness P0001 noted that women who were subjected to rape during the conflict faced stigma from their community, even in the camps, and they also lacked enough medical care and psychological support. The children born out of rape were victimized as well.
الاكتسابات بتاعت الجنجويد
Children born out of rape by the Janjaweed are different because they are colored. So people pay attention to the different color because people are in different colors in the camp. So even children, when children are conscious enough and they realize what had happened to their mother, they get impacted. Sometimes children bully each other and say, "Oh, you boy, you are a result of a rape. Where is your father?" So that child has mental health issues and is very anxious. And the family itself, in the family, they have children out of rape. It's shame. It's a stain of shame. And when this child comes, for example, into a family, the whole family is impacted because this causes pain to the whole family.
In order to earn a living, the women in the camp had to work very hard to earn small amounts of money to buy food and other basic needs for their families.
You spoke a few times about the women who work because they need to make a living to feed their families. Can you tell us what type of work most of the women in the camps do?
معظم النساء في المخيمات
Most of the women in the camps, as it is typically known, rely on their own toil and work in citizens' shops. Around the valley, there's work, and in town, they cut the grass, the straw, wash belongings, bring water. Many women also go search for firewood, which they bring to town to sell. Others look for straw to earn a living and to buy the things they need. This is what a woman is able to do in a camp because there are limited work opportunities. You can do farming, purchase firewood, wash clothes, or carry water on behalf of someone, or bring firewood and straw. These are the limited work opportunities that these women are able to do in the camps.
At the end of her testimony, witness P0001 at the trial of Ali Muhammad Ali Abd-Al-Rahman explained why she agreed to come to the court.
نعم أنا وصلت هنا
I want to achieve my rights and justice. I came here because I was oppressed. And I came here in order to talk about what happened to me. I would like to talk before this court. I was subject to injustice, and the people of Darfur were subject to injustice. The women of Darfur were subject to injustice. The children of Darfur and the elderly of Darfur were subject to injustice. And in general, the society and the community of Darfur is still suffering from the consequences of the war. This had forced us to be displaced for 19 to 20 years. We've been refugees for 19 to 20 years. We live a very difficult life. This is why I wanted to come to this court and to talk about my cause, about the injustice that I had suffered, and the injustice that the people of Darfur who are refugees are living.
The second participating victim, P0003, called to testify at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, also testified with protective measures of image and pseudonym, and parts of his testimony were conducted in private sessions to protect his identity. Questioned by Anand Shah, Associate Counsel, he testified about the attacks on Bindisi and its effects on his family.
Our house was burned down, and this means that it was completely destroyed. Our money was looted, and we were left with nothing. We left Bindisi, taking our souls with us only, and we lost our father there, and this is what happened.
And this may seem maybe a strange question, sir, but what did it mean to you and your family to lose your father?
It was a great loss, because we know that the father is the person who was raising us. He was the person who was seeing to all our needs. He was our support. So we became orphans, we became fatherless. He was the provider of our family. So this was the greatest loss. Losing your father in a moment like this is a great loss.
And sir, did you have the opportunity to bury your father and the other family members that you mentioned who were killed during the attack?
We did not have the chance to bury my father. But my maternal uncle, his son, and my paternal cousins were buried.
After the attacks, they fled and eventually ended up in the camps, where he said life was difficult and the people were dying due to lack of proper medical care.
And what about healthcare facilities? Were there any clinics available if you needed medical treatment or medicine, for example?
When it comes to healthcare, I can say yes, there were health facilities that used to provide treatment. However, they were not sufficient, and the treatments were only targeting specific diseases. So if a person needed surgical interventions, the specialists in this field were lacking back then. Therefore, we found that most people who had difficult diseases died.
When asked to compare his early days at the camp in comparison to the current situation at the camps, participating victim P0003 noted that the situation changed.
When it comes to food, during the first years, we were receiving some sort of support. However, in the last few years, no food is being distributed to refugees in the camps. So any person have to rely on himself in order to get food. And nowadays, in our camp, it has been 1.5 years since we've last got any aid or assistance from the organizations. They say that the reason is that we do not receive any support. So we are not entitled to any support, and therefore you see that most refugees have to do very hard work in order to get their livelihood and the livelihood for their families. So some of these refugees work in farms, some others work in bringing wood, some other work in bringing straw. Some other people go to the neighboring villages and cities hoping to find a job in order to be able to feed their families.
About education while at the camp, participating victim P0003 noted that his older children are going to school together with other children in the camp, and parents have to pay for it.
But in my view, this school is not a proper school as such. They go and they come back, but the school really needs a lot of the basic educational services. So we call it a school, but it is not a proper school in any way.
Participating victim P0003 testified that when he arrived in the camp, he was teaching classes of about 50 to 100 refugee children subjects such as geography, history, and English. After many years, he quit his teaching job at the camp and became a farmer, even though he still values education.
التعليم هو المستقبل.
Sir, education is the future. I was totally aware that through education, I could change my life and others' life. And through education, I could help others as I could meet and sit together with different populations, and that is through education. We also have a famous saying that goes as follows: life is built with education, and also death is built with education, or our ending. And without education, we will not be able to make any progress. So this was a strong belief. And I believe that through education, I could treat all the wounds that I suffered from or that my community suffers from.
About his hopes for the future, participating victim P0003 noted that
في الحقيقة نحب أن نقول
just like other people wish, I wish for a life full of happiness and well-being, because myself and other refugees wish to get good education, prosperity, and well-being for our children. I also hope that I can continue my journey and return to my homeland, to my home village, because no matter the difficulties that I might face, I have to continue and reach two phases in my life. I want to get a master's degree and then a PhD. I don't know when I would get such an opportunity. However, I am ready for this and I'm dreaming of this.
Participating victim P0003 thanked all the organizations that have stood together with the refugees over the years.
والعرفان للذين
I would like to extend my gratitude also to those who helped me at the beginning that I have met. So when I was given the tent, there was UN written on this tent. When I was given oil, on the bottle of oil, the word UN was written. When I was given books, on these books, UNICEF was written. When I was given a bag, on this bag, EU was written. So I was wondering, what do these words mean? What do these letters mean? Or these acronyms? Later on, it turned out, or I found out that UN stands for the United Nations, and EU means European Union. This is when I became aware that these people are those who saved our lives. They provided us with food, clothes, and water. Therefore, I would like to salute all the peoples of the European Union, the people of the United States, because their aid and their deeds supported us always, even if they did not know us or we did not know them. Therefore, I would like to extend to you my deepest gratitude on behalf of the Darfurian refugees and displaced persons. Thank you.
At the end of his testimony, participating victim P0003 talked about the expectations from the victims' community.
نحن كلاجئين
I would like to say that as refugees, I've been a refugee for 20 years. I have been in a refugee camp for 20 years. So we lived all the tragedies in life. We did not know the true meaning of life. We only lived in dire situations. As a result, I spared no effort and I overcame all the obstacles in order to come here and sit or stand before you and talk to you about everything I have been through and everything that the Darfurian people has gone through, especially the refugees and the displaced persons who were displaced because of this war. I would like to say that we like justice and we want justice. We want that all those who turned our lives into humiliation and suffering and exhaustion to be held accountable. We want those who destroyed us to be held accountable.
The trial of Ali Muhammad Ali Abd-Al-Rahman will resume with the presentation of the defense case. The accused persons at the ICC are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Mr. Abd-Al-Rahman has a defense team that can conduct their own investigations, present evidence to the judges, call witnesses, and generally represent the interests of the accused. At the end of the trial, the ICC judges decide whether or not the accused person is guilty. If found guilty and convicted, the person could be subject to a fine and or sentenced to imprisonment for up to 30 years and exceptionally life in prison. Once the parties have presented their evidence, the prosecution and the defense are invited to make their closing statements. The defense always has the opportunity to speak the last. Convicted persons serve their prison sentence in a state designated by the court from the list of states which have indicated to the court their willingness to accept convicted persons. The judges may order reparations to victims, including restitution, compensation, and rehabilitation. Both the prosecution and the convicted person, the defense, can appeal the decision. The appeals chamber may confirm, reverse, or amend the decision or conviction, or order a new trial before a different trial chamber.